Hey everybody. So I was gonna take a few minutes here and discuss the Rise of Skywalker, which is the ninth film in the Star Wars Skywalker Saga. And not only that, but is also the conclusion to the sequel trilogy of films, spanning The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and now this film. And most of this movie is going to, whether or not you like it, is mostly going to come down to your opinion of the sequel trilogy thus far. And so, coming as someone who really enjoyed The Force Awakens and really hated The Last Jedi, I thought this was all right. It's not great. There's some glaring issues, but let's talk about the good stuff first. The good stuff, the acting is good across the board, which is to be expected. These are all A-list actors by this point, and if not, they probably will be soon. Uh, sorry, my camera's shaking too much. The effects, of course, look great. I mean, what they're sneaking hundreds of millions of Disney dollars into these special effects. So, and they have the best company to work on these effects. So, of course, it's gonna be great. I'm trying to think. Jeez, was there anything else? You know what? Some of the plot lines were pretty well handled, I'd say. Geez, I'm trying to. Is there anything else that's good in this movie? The action in this movie, which a lot of people are just gonna be are gonna be here for the action. They don't care about the plot. They just want some action in this. Um, it's kind of a mess, to be honest. There's some really cool battles, but a lot of it feels aimless. A lot of time, especially the final battle, feels like a gigantic mess completely across the board. The lightsaber battles are abysmal in this movie. You can tell they really tried to make up for the lack of a lightsaber fight in The Last Jedi, and that pissed me off too. I hated that there was no lightsaber battle in there. But they put two, possibly three if you want to count one at the end. I'm not going to spoil that in case you haven't seen it. But they were laughably choreographed and not exactly well shot. And that's an issue with the entire movie. It's a dully shot movie. Dully, yeah, that's a word now. It's not very interesting, and that's the one thing that I will give The Last Jedi, is that it was beautifully shot. The angles and the cinematography always made the worlds feel so big and the scale so huge. But this film, it feels like it's a lot smaller and it's a lot more restrained than the last two films, and that kind of bothers me. Uh, there's also, oh, jeez, what, anything else noteworthy in this film? I suppose I should talk about Palpatine, since this is one of the drawing points of this film. Ian McDiarmid is good as always. He's always good as Palpatine. Love the prequels or hate them, he's one of the best parts of that entire trilogy. But he wasn't really given a lot to do, and the final fight between him and Rey, that's not a spoiler, you guys knew that was coming, was very lackluster and kind of dumb to watch, with one really cool element. If you've been following along with Star Wars for a while, you will know what I'm talking about when I say there was one really cool element to this. Yeah, a lot of this, a main problem with this film also is the pacing. It's very bad. The first half of this film is very quick, and a lot of it feels like damage control for The Last Jedi. And I can tell that Disney figured people hated this movie, so we're like, you know what? We need to retcon this as much as possible. So let's devote the first half of the movie to pretty much retconning the entire film, and that kind of bothers me. I didn't like The Last Jedi, but you could have just rolled with what he gave you, and it seems like they tried to have it both ways, and it wasn't working. And the tone is all over the place. They tried to put these humor moments in all these places, or humorous moments, I should say. And while it's handled a lot better than The Last Jedi, which had abysmal humor, there are times where you can really tell they're trying to force a joke. But thankfully, they did not put any in the last sequence. I think there was one, a bit that was played for a laugh, but it was short. It was really swift like that. You forget it in a couple seconds, so it didn't take away from anything. But probably the best scene in this movie, I'm not gonna say what it is, but it's a scene probably about halfway through the movie, where maybe a little further than that, but I'm see how I can do this without spoiling. Something bad happens, and one of the original trilogy characters has, of course, has a pretty bad reaction to it. Doesn't have the greatest of reactions to it, and if you've been following along with the trilogy, with the franchise, pretty much your entire life, like I have, that'll hit you right here, and that's what it did to me. Okay, you know what? I have to talk about it. Skip with this time code. I'll put it in post if you don't want spoilers. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So Leia, of course, dies, which you kind of expect given Carrie Fisher's passing back in December of 2016. So we all knew that had to happen, but when that happens, Rey, Poe, Finn, and Chewie are not on the planet. They did not know. They were off doing their own thing. So, and when they get back, they find out the news. The first thing Poe says is, "We need to talk to Leia," and the person that tells them is Billy Lord, who is Carrie Fisher's daughter, and I thought that was a nice little thing they put in there to have her tell them. And Chewie's reaction, he just completely if you thought his reaction to Han Solo was like, "Holy crap, Chewie's just lost it," he like completely breaks down here. And if you look deep enough, like I did, you realize of the his 3 best friends of the last 30 years are all gone. And he realizes that, and he just completely loses it. And I thought that was a very powerful scene. Probably one of the most emotional scenes I have seen in a movie in a long time. If you follow with a franchise, that'll be like the ending of Avengers Endgame for you. Like it was for me. Is there anything else? Anything else that's noteworthy? No. This movie is... The main problem with this movie is that it's kind of forgettable. The other movies, Force Awakens was good enough to stick out, and The Last Jedi was bad enough to make sure it will not be forgotten, unfortunately, as much as I tried the last 2 years. But this film is very forgettable, very standard, and kind of dull. But hey, if you like Force Awakens, and if you like The Last Jedi, one or the other, you'll probably like this film. So that's all for this film. Now, see you next time.